Hi, I'm Andrea Clausen, and tonight we are going to be practicing a yin yoga class for the vagus nerve. So it's all about grounding for the vata dosha and really releasing tension throughout the body. So feel free to have some props handy for tonight. You might have a bolster, you might have a blanket or two, couple blocks. If you want an eye pillow or even a weighted blanket, that might be a great option for you as well. So feel free to grab those props as needed, and then we will get started in a seated position. So feel free to find that nice tall spine. Palms might rest down on the thighs. Legs might be crossed. And then when you're ready, you might gently start to soften through the eyes. So wherever you're at in your day, you might take an inhale through the nose and open mouth exhale. Let's take that once more, breathing in through the nose, sighing it out. And then just start to come in to an even Samavriti breath, inhaling and exhaling through the nose for an equal amount. You might inhale for a count of 4 or 5 and exhale for a count of 4 or 5. We'll take the next minute finding your breath. As you continue with that breath, is there anywhere else that could soften in the body? Can you relax your shoulders just a little more? Can you soften through your hands? Releasing any tension through the abdomen and low back. Relaxing through the face and the jaw. Feeling everything melt. As you continue this breath, working with that vagus nerve, any sounding breaths that might feel great in your body, you might take throughout your practice. And that might just be a sigh. Or maybe you have a personal mantra you're working with and you want to recite that out loud, feeling that vibration in the body. We'll take just a few more breaths here. And then we're going to gently take our hands to our shoulders and opening the elbows out wide. We're going to exhale, touch those elbows together, round through the spine. Inhale, open up through that heart space. Exhale, rounding through that spine, touching those elbows together. We're just going to take that a few more times. And again, just bringing awareness internally and into the body. Then after that next time, softly release that. And you might come to a tabletop position. We're going to be finding our first posture. We're going to be taking a child's pose. If you have a hardwood floor that you're on, you might take a blanket underneath the knees. Now, some people like to have a bolster for a child's pose, and others like no bolster. So if you want that bolster, knees can go out wide, maybe one cheek rests down, and I'll let us know when we're halfway if you want to switch. If that bolster doesn't feel great, you can always ditch the bolster and just let everything rest on the earth. If it doesn't feel good behind the knees, you can always bring another blanket right behind the hamstrings and those calves. So go ahead and find your version. We're going to sink into this one for about 3 minutes since this is a 30-minute practice tonight. So finding your way into the posture. And then once you're there, go ahead and tune into your intention or sankalpa, reciting that 3 times. And then continuing to find the stillness. We're halfway if you want to switch a cheek on a bolster. Taking another breath here. And then when you're ready, you'll gently press into maybe a tabletop position. Maybe you want to take cat-cow. Maybe you want to take a down dog. Doing whatever you need to do to let that posture settle into the body. Some of the great postures to kind of tune into that vagus nerve are laying down on the belly. And so we're going to be working our way there next. So you might lay down. We're going to be taking broken wing. And so for this, you might extend that right arm out to the side. And so it's just going to go straight out from the shoulder. Now, this is one where you might have a block underneath the head. And then you're going to slowly roll over. So I'm going to go to my left and I'm going to roll onto that left hip and that arm is going to stay out. I can stay stacked I can take my top knee or my top leg, bend into it, let that foot fall on the earth. My right hand can stay on the floor or wrap behind. So kind of deciding what feels best for you. And then once more, tuning into that breath. If this gets a little intense on the shoulders, you can always lie down back on the belly. Finding crocodile, taking those heels in, toes turned out, forehead resting on the mat. If we're thinking about the nervous system and the nerves in our body, if we kind of think about power lines, if a power line goes down, we lose electricity in our homes. And when that occurs, that's the same thing in our body. When our nervous system shuts down, we lose power, we lose energy, we don't feel ourselves. And so attuning to practices like this to help us find that reset, help us recharge back to our energy, are so needed in today's world. Taking one more deep breath here. We'll go ahead and slowly roll onto the belly, finding that crocodile pose, turning those heels in, toes turned out, forehead rests down on those palms. And then coming into a diaphragmatic breath. This is another way to attune that vagus nerve. And while we're resting in the in-between, before we switch sides, just noticing your body's reaction. Can you rest in the in-between, or are we trying to rush to the next thing? Let's get it done. Or can you be present with what is? And then we'll go ahead and prepare for that second side. So taking the opposite arm straight out from that shoulder, rolling onto that hip. And then tuning into what the lower body wants to do. Maybe you want to do that kickstand. Maybe it wants to be straight on this side. Just really tuning in and honoring the body. What do you need? there anywhere else you can soften in the body? Where else can you release gripping? Where am I now? If the mind has wandered, asking yourself, where am I now? With that next exhale, slowly coming back to the belly, coming back to that crocodile pose, heels in, toes out, letting that forehead sink down. This time, maybe coming into a 3-part breath. Breathing into the low belly, then to the ribs, and then bringing it to the chest. Exhale, release, chest, ribs, belly. Inhale, low belly, ribs, chest. Exhale, low belly, ribs, chest. Taking that for the next minute. We'll release that breath and make our way up into Sphinx. So you might have those shoulders, elbows, and stacked. If that's a little intense on the low back, you can always walk those elbows out. You can also keep those elbows back and maybe let the chin rest on the palms. Or take a block, place the forehead resting down. In yin, it's okay if those shoulders come up by the ears. And again, if at any point this is a little intense, you can go ahead and come back to crocodile. If you want to take a slight hip opening, you might take that right knee out to the side any amount. We'll rest here for about a minute. I'll let you know when it's time to switch. If this, again, aggravates the low back, feel free to come back to regular Sphinx. If you love seal and you want to practice that, feel free to move into seal if that is in your practice. I would not take steel with the hip opener, just to protect that low back a little. You have one knee out, you might slowly take that knee back to center and switch to the opposite side. And the eyes might close or softly stare at something. That helps reduce that pitta dosha, that fire, that intensity. You might take that leg back to center and pause here. And then in the next breath or so, finding any counter movement or stillness. Maybe you want to go back to that crocodile. Maybe you want to come to a tabletop and take a little cat-cow, or even a puppy dog pose. Finding that gentle movement or stillness. And then we're going to go ahead and get ready for our last posture before our Shavasana. We're going to take a twist. And so you might come to lie on the back. Now for your twist, this can be your choice how many props, if any, you would like to use. So with those twists, I'm going to use my bolster tonight, but I'm going to have my arms out to a T, and I'm going to let my knees fall over and rest on my bolster. You could also let the knees fall on the floor. You could take the bolster between the legs and let them rest over, or any other twist variation. This is also one, maybe if your head is looking up and you want to take that eye pillow, you might rest that eye pillow over. And you might come back to those sounding breaths. Observing where else you can release some tension. halfway here on this side. Is there anywhere else you can melt some tension and maybe even flipping the palms towards the sky if they're not already? And then in your next breath or so, you might gently bring yourself back to lie on the spine. Maybe you want to take movement or stillness. Notice what the body needs. I find yin to be a great practice to tune in to yourself. Sometimes we don't slow down, and so we can't listen to the body, but what do you need? And if you're not sure, you're just resting in that stillness, finding your breath again. If you had any props, you might gently shift them to the opposite side. And once more, taking those legs back up into a tabletop. If you took that twist on the back, letting the knees fall across the body. And once more, opening up those arms. And maybe taking a few sounding breaths. Uh, Maybe doing a body scan. Is there anywhere I'm gripping or clinging? Can I find some smoothness, some gentleness as I rest here? Resting here for about 1 more minute. Exhale everything back to center once more, finding that stillness or movement, tuning in. What does the body need? We'll be making our way into our Shavasana next, and so just taking any last movement that the body wants before it settles in. And for your Shavasana, you might use props, you might not. One that a teacher taught me that I really liked was having a bolster under my knees and having a block underneath each of my heels. And so you might explore and experiment what feels best. And once more, maybe placing an eye pillow over the eyes if that feels okay. Palms might rest up. Taking that inhale through the nose, open mouth exhale. Releasing your practice. Resting here in this stillness. I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Slowly start to wiggle fingers or toes, rolling the head left to right, awakening through the body gently. And then when you're ready, rolling to the side of your choice. Taking a few breaths there to recenter, renew, and reconnect. Gently press to a seated position when you're ready. We'll feel off our practice by taking those palms together up above our heads, bringing them down to that third eye, trusting your intuition. Bringing your hands to your lips, speaking your truth. bringing your hands to heart center, knowing yourself. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Bowing in so much gratitude. Thank you.